Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Cutting Edge Figure Skating Podcast. My name is Kim Dunaway, and in this episode, I will be covering the second stop in the Junior Grand Prix in Ostrava, Czech Republic. And in this event, I will be covering three of the four disciplines: the ladies, the pairs, and the ice dance. Unfortunately, again, no men this week, even though it was a very interesting competition over in the men's. Just wasn't able to watch enough to cover them as well. So let's get started with the women here first. Our winner here was Karuko Wada of Japan. This was her international debut. She was actually 13th at Junior Japanese Nationals last year. So quite the leap for her and quite the opportunity. And she definitely made the most of it, winning both the short and the long program at this competition. Her short program, she skates to How Does a Moment Last Forever by Celine Dion. That comes from the Beauty and the Beast live action movie. And so we've definitely seen an uptick in the popularity of using music from that particular movie in the last few seasons. And so this piece of music, I can't recall hearing as much, so that was kind of nice. In the short program, I thought her jumps were definitely the cleanest that we saw in the entire event. Really propelled her to first place. And then in the long program, she did not miss a single thing. She was just flying across the ice, so much speed, skating to Titanic, which is always really great music. Frankly, her skate was clean to the naked eye. Ultimately, she did get a couple of edge calls and one call on the quarter, but super strong performance from her, scoring almost 130 points in that free skate, which is a really nice benchmark to have as a junior. So very impressive for her, puts her in a great position to get into a junior Grand Prix final at the end of the season. Second place here was Stefania Gladkey of France. She was actually second at French Nationals last season behind Lauren Child and ahead of Leah Serna, which I think is very exciting and for Team France, because right now we're so focused on the 2026 Olympics in less than 2 years now in Italy. But the next Olympics after that will be in France. And so we're seeing a lot of really up and coming skaters here in juniors from France and a lot of the various disciplines. And right now, of course, we have some very exciting ice dance team at the seniors, and as well as a couple of really good men in the seniors. And where they have really lacked has been with a consistent lady and with a pairs team. And so it's really exciting to see both of those at this particular stop in the Grand Prix. So, in the short program, Stefania skated to Dracula the Musical, and only her step sequence was not a level 4. She's very, very strong in her elements and her skating skills here. She did get an edge call on her flip, but there were lots of edge calls on that triple flip in the short program with a lot of the competitors. Contrast to the long program, she is someone who doesn't get a lot of height on her jumps, but she did not get a single call, which is rare, not just in juniors, but in seniors as well. She actually has two triple triples in her free skate, and they're both in her second half. She has a triple Lutz, triple toe, and a triple Lutz Euler, triple Salchow, and they were both clean and well done. She skated to Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend, as well as a couple of pieces from Moulin Rouge. So really strong performance from her here. Got a personal best, getting over 120 points in her free skate. She was the first French lady in, I believe they said 19 years, to get a medal in ladies. So that was very, very exciting for her and for the French Federation as well. Because if you look at the age that she is right now and you think 6 years from now in an Olympic season, that might be just perfect. All right, going on to third place here, that was UJ Kim from Korea. She was definitely on the warhorse train with her musical selections. In her short program, she was skating to Love Story, and in her long program, she was using Swan Lake. The short program, what really stood out to me was just the fast rotation in the air that she has on her jumps. She was actually second after the short program going into the free skate, but unfortunately for her, had a bit of a rough free skate. So she had a clean triple axel to start the free skate, which it was like, wow. In fact, I had to do a double take. I was like, was that 3 or 2 revolutions? Because she does spin so fast in the air, but it was clean, not a quarter call, not under, a completely clean triple axel. She also does a triple Lutz double axel later in her program that gets her a lot of points. But unfortunately for her, she had 2 major mistakes in her free skate, and she fell on her second triple loop, and she got a repetition violation in addition to that because it was her second triple loop. If they repeat a jump, they have to do it in combination. And so if they fall on that jump and they're unable to do it in combination, or they have a wonky landing and they don't get even a single toe off, they're going to get 30% lower on their base value for a repetition violation. And so because of that, that particular mistake cost her almost 6 points, and she lost second by less than 4 points. So unfortunately for her, she fell a spot, but she was still able to hang on to a spot on the podium. In fourth place was Rina Uzano of Japan, and she's a really lovely skater. Actually, she was in contention for one of the top skates for my season's best list last year for junior ladies. In the short program, she skated to Voila, which has been very popular music the last couple of years. In fact, Kimi Rapon used that for her short program last season. She just has a lot of expression, especially in her footwork sequence. I feel like it's a bit slow at times, but it does look like it's very difficult, and it might be something that as the season goes on, she's able to master a little bit better. Jumps were really good here in the short program. Fortunately, let her down a little bit in her free skate. So she started off skating the Bells of Moscow. She had 2 really costly falls. So on her second flip and her second Lutz, if she had just fallen on one of them and stayed on her feet on the other, that would have been enough to have kept her on the podium. Even if she had gotten the second Lutz all the way around, that probably would have been enough. But unfortunately, she under rotated it really badly and got a full downgrade. And that cost her a spot because she was second going into the free, but was fourth in the free skate and ended up off the podium fourth overall. I felt like just performance-wise, she lost a lot of steam towards the end of the program, probably after those 2 big mistakes, but I think it could be a really cool program if skated well and if she invested the energy into it from start to finish. Fifth place here was Josephine Lee of the US, and her short program is to Objection by Shakira, her tango. The first part is just really all tango music, and then the objection music sort of starts to come in as she does her triple toe combo, which is right on the change of the music. It is an easier triple combo, so she is losing points there based on what a lot of the other ladies are doing, triple Lutz triple toe or triple flip triple toe. What really, though, cost her was stepping out of her triple flip, and she got an undercall. I think she's got some nice catch foot positions on her spins. She really shows off her flexibility. She does lose some speed, though, on a couple of those spins. I think that's a place that she could improve and get some more points on those particular elements. I thought that her layback spin was really the strongest element. Footwork was really fun. I thought she had a really strong ending. And I like the music choice. I think it's a fun, different sort of music choice, but still having that aspects of a tango in there. In her free skate, she's using the very overused Rachmaninoff number 2, but it's also great music. I pretty much never tire of it. It's not like Carmen or Exogenesis number 3 that we hear so much. She's wearing all black, which is not a common color that you see when people skate to Rachmaninoff. It kind of reminds me of Natalia Mishkatunov and Artur Dmitriev back from the 94 Olympics. They used black with their Rachmaninoff free skate that they did. I think ultimately Josephine skates this really well artistically, but technically it's just a step behind where everybody else is doing. She doesn't have a triple combo already, and so she really has to do the content that she has really well to score well here. And unfortunately, she lost over 3 points from the time that she finished till the time that her scores came up in tech calls, and that's something that really plagues a lot of the US skaters in general. And unfortunately for her, she was eighth in the free. So she had the very interesting placement of being seventh in the short program and eighth in the free, but still managing to be fifth overall because there was a lot of movement once you got outside of the top four. So I think it was a decent showing for her. I would, obviously love to see some improvements and ultimately some upgrades technically from her so she compete with some of these other ladies. The tech content she has, honestly, would probably compete just fine with a lot of the ladies in the US, but internationally, it's definitely tough. All right, moving on to the dance event. And so my first question is, are you sick of Disco Inferno yet? Because we're already getting a whole lot of disco, and that's been a very popular selection as well. All right, let's get into the winners here. This was Selena Fragi and Jean Haas Fourneau of France winning here. They were fourth at Junior Worlds last season, so definitely came in with big expectations and they lived up to it. Their two programs could not be more different. They're doing their rhythm dance to the Village People, so literally they're doing In the Navy and YMCA. So two very fun pieces of music. They had really nice crypt twizzles to start. They were just big GOE compared to what everybody else was doing. They didn't have the best levels on their midline step, but it was really fun with the music. They were at first place by a mile, and they were almost 10 points ahead of the next competitor after the rhythm dance. And so they really just needed to stay on their feet in the free dance, which they did and did very well. They went from camp in the rhythm dance to just like a emotional contemporary piece that they were doing in the free dance to Exogenesis Symphony number 2 and number 3. Only real critique for them is the curve lift. It was a little shakily, her leg was bent, and it looked like they slipped. They still ended up getting great GOE on it. It did get downgraded from a level 4 to a level 3, but I thought they were really fortunate to have been able to keep that element as well as they did. I love their stationary lifts. Just super fantastic. A lot of speed. Love the position. They just bring a lot of the extra details. I felt the same way about the Italian team that won at last week's Junior Grand Prix. You can just sort of see the extra use of their arms, the extra just interpretation of the music that they have where a lot of the other teams behind them just don't. So with them, this was the first time in 8 years that a French ice dance team has won the Junior Grand Prix, which is surprising to me because we've had some great French dance teams come out. So I would probably have to go back to, I'm guessing that's Papadakis and Cizeron that won the last Junior Grand Prix. I'm thinking 8 years ago. I don't know. They might have been seniors 8 years ago. Maybe I should have fact checked that before I looked. I'm just guessing that was them. But anyway, so big deal for them winning here. In second place was Katarina Wolf-Kostin and Dmitry Serovetsky from the US. So this was a bit of a surprise for me when it came out that they were going to be doing juniors this season. Ultimately, what they said on the broadcast was that they were looking for more opportunities to compete internationally. So in that sense, it does make a lot of sense for them to be here because it's so crowded in seniors for the US. And so there's just not a lot of spots once you get past the top 7 or 8 teams in the US. And that's kind of where Katarina and Dimitri are right now. They were able to get an international event or two last season at a Challengers, which they did well, but then we didn't see them again until Nationals. And so this will allow them to get some more international experience. They're still very young. And so it's kind of interesting that maybe they didn't quite give them that same opportunity last season where they had Jeffrey Chin and his former partner doing juniors. But even so, I would have loved to have seen them perform better here than what they did in their first outing. I think that they're very fortunate to have gotten a silver medal here. There's a lot of things that they could clean up. In their rhythm dance, they're skating to Car Wash and Disco Inferno. Dimitri fell out of his last twizzle very badly, and that was a really major mistake. He was really disappointed with his performance, and you could tell after the fact and in the kiss and cry. The whole performance to me just felt a bit chaotic at times. I thought their first pattern looked really strong, but otherwise it just didn't quite feel like it all came together for me. You can see in the elements what a good pair that they are. and they could be steps above a lot of the other teams of this competition. But to me, that just the neither program just really gelled yet. So I'll withhold judgment until I see them a second time. But as I was watching their free dance, which they're using Moulin Rouge, they're skating to One Day I'll Fly Away and the show must go on. I I don't immediately love it. Like last year they did a tango, so thank goodness they didn't pick like Tango Roxanne and do a tango 2 years in a row. So at least they picked some pieces from Moulin Rouge that show a little bit more range, but it just still doesn't feel like it's a good fit. Like when you're watching, like if you put it on mute, or when you're watching it after they perform and they're just showing a replay, what they're doing looks really amazing at times. But for me, it just doesn't completely fit to the music. I just don't love the choreography. They have really incredible lifts. I'm just not sure that this is the greatest program to really showcase their talents. The big issue for them was that Katarina just falls on her butt in the character step just right at the end of the program. And unfortunately, they ended up losing that element completely because you've got to start and stop at a certain place and cover a certain amount of space in the character step. And when she fell, she ends up just kind of skating back to where Dimitri is at that point, and so she doesn't complete that entire circle, and so they lost that, and they were pretty upset about that, and she definitely was here. Like he was pretty upset after the rhythm dance. They are able to just barely hang on to the silver medal here, but they had the best step sequences in the event as far as their midline step. They had the best 1 foot turn sequence, and they were just barely able to stay ahead of the Canadians, which means that they'll still be in the running for potentially getting into the Grand Prix final as well. And I hope in their second outing that they're able to put forth performances that are stronger without the mistakes that they had here. But sometimes you're going to have those, and at least they got them out of the way where it didn't completely kill them in the standings. And third place here was Layla Velion and Alexander Brandis from Canada. They are a team with the Ice Academy of Montreal in Toronto. So they train under Scott Moyer and Adrian Diaz, who was here with them, and Madison Hubble. Their rhythm dance was to Twist and Shout. And I was like, oh, thank gosh, somebody finally brought out like the 50s and didn't do like a disco performance. They're also skating to Stay and Do You Love Me. They're using like some fun polka dot costumes. I thought their best part was their midline step. Unfortunately, they had a fall on their ending pose and they both fell and they lost 2 points. So they also had a big hiccup in theirs that could have been the difference between them being second place here. In their free dance, they actually do their character stuff like in as their second element, which I really liked. So many teams do it like at the very end of their performance. And a lot of times it just kind of feels like a throwaway. And so I kind of liked that they did it early. They also had their pair spin really early. So just the sequence of their elements just felt a little bit different. I thought in general they had very high quality elements. Don't think the program is super memorable, but it was well skated. And they finished second in the free dance, but weren't able to pull themselves up, but made it on the podium. In fourth place here was Anita Straub and Andrea Straub. They're a brother-sister pair from Austria. And their rhythm dance, they were skating to Play That Funky Music and Hit the Road Jack. Very interesting pieces of music. It felt like at times the music seems faster than their skating, and they're not slow. Like they're skating with speed, but it almost feels like the music is faster than where they're going, and it just kind of feels at times like they're behind the music. Also didn't really love their costumes here either. I guess it was like a 70s look. I don't know if it was the color or the style. It just didn't feel like it matched the music either. I like their free dance much better. It's to La La Land. I love their costumes. Like, not enough skaters use yellow. It's like an underused color. They have really nice speed and flow. I love the rotational lift that she does when she's in the full split. I think their character step is really cool and has lots of personality. So I thought they were really enjoyable here in their free dance. In fifth place was Alicia Ovsakina and Maximilian Roy, also of France. They were very, very wide in the standings. So they were ninth in the rhythm dance, but were fourth in the free dance and pulled themselves all the way up to fifth. In the rhythm dance, they had very good music choices. They were using That's the Way I Like It. They came out very confident, good speed, great posture, upper body I thought was really good. He fell out of his last twizzle a bit, not as much as Dimitri did for the US team, but still definitely a little more on the program. Ultimately, what kind of got them were a lot of downgrades. Just a level 1 on his twizzle with the mistake. They just got a level 2 on their rotational lift. They look really just kind of shell shocked at their score in the kiss and cry. And we see that at times in ice dance. Like people feel like they had a really good performance and they just didn't get the levels that they thought they were going to get. Their free dance was to Four Seasons, and these is the version by Max Richter. And I was thinking that the Four Seasons, as we know, is super popular music and figure skating in general, but it's something we see really more so in the other disciplines, especially the single disciplines, more so than we see it in ice dance. So I kind of liked it as a music choice here. It Good effort here. Super interesting position on their curve lift where her foot kind of hooked on his shoulder. So I don't know what I thought about her dress. I was looking at it the whole time going, do I like this dress? Do I not like this dress? Like I like the color that they use. They went more of like a kind of different shades of like purple. Usually when people are skating to Four Seasons, they always have some kind of fade in the color of what they're using. But I felt the color was very different because usually people are using something like blue or white or to sort of represent the seasons. But her dress was just, it was almost distracting at times. I don't know how I feel about it. All right, that's the top 5 in the ice dance competition. And the last one that I'm going to talk about is the pairs. And this event overall was just messy, really, really messy. A lot of red ink, lots and lots of negative GOE in both segments of the competition, unfortunately. The winners here were Zhang and Fang of China, so a Chinese pair, different Chinese pair for the second week in a row. In their short program, they had a really nice twist, beautiful throw, just nice tight rotation in the air, just no negative GOE, clear winners of the short program. They ended up with like a base level on their death spiral. But other than that, really strong performance. Didn't love their music choice. Just don't think it really suits them. It kind of sounds almost like circus music. It's just kind of weird for me. They had really great scores for most of the judges, except for the Slovakian judge who had them in second place and everybody else had them in first. And the Slovakian judge had them 11th in PCS. And I was like, what were they looking at? Like, it's so strange for me. They just really had them way, way down in terms of that. I'm not really sure what that was about. In the free skate, they were using like Spanish matador music. Their choreographer, like the Chinese pair last week, is also Wengjing Sui of Sui and Han, but they are definitely not as technically sound as Zhang and Hu Wang were last week. Last week, they did both of their side-by-side jumps were triples. Here, they're doing side-by-side double axles and then side-by-side double loop, double toe, double toes. Had a really rough fall on their throw triple flip and two-footed their triple Salchow. And Ted Barton said afterwards that they did not miss the throw in practice. So it was just a bad day, probably just coming in a little nervous, a little tight. So I just felt like the program never really had a chance to come together with the mistake. She was incredibly upset after because I'm thinking, they're the last to skate in the free skate. They're probably thinking that they lost the event and they were second in the free program. But with the lead that they had going into the free skate, they still were able to win. And of course, all the other teams here were really messy and nobody really took advantage of the mistakes. And so they were able to hang on and still win gold here. In second place was Romain Telemaque and Lucas Colon of France, and we saw them last week in Riga, and so much better improved overall than what we saw of them last week, which I gotta say, this week over the coverage last week, the video quality so much better, and the audio was so much better. In fact, I was looking at Romain's costume, the jumpsuit that she wears, and the free skate, and I was like, is this the same thing she wore last week? Because it just looked a little different. I think it was the same thing. It just looks more vibrant with the better quality video, honestly. But anyway, their short program, Fever and Jailhouse Rock, really the biggest difference between their score this week and their score last week was that they got a level 4 in their step sequence this week. Last week they got a level 2, and their side-by-side spins were better this week than they were last week. In their free skate, what I really kind of stood out to me this week was he is so much taller. Lucas is, and a lot of the other men that we see in pairs at this level, and I feel like that just is a real benefit for them. They really use that to get a much deeper throw. Like, their throws are much stronger. They get much better distance than a lot of the other teams do. Their lifts are much stronger, even though their second lift came down too early and they ended up only getting a level 1 on that. Overall, they just look so much better than last week. He was really upset in the kiss and cry over the lift that came down too early, and I think he thought they were gonna lose a medal, but they ended up hanging on, and even though they were 4th in the free skate, they were still able to hang on to that 2nd place. And after that, and when their scores came up and they figured out they were still gonna get a medal, she was really emotional in the Chris and Kai. So it was really sweet to sort of watch her try to console him and then watch their coach try to console her because she was really emotional that they were able to get a medal. So really, I was so pleased to see their improvement just in a week. I think just a little bit more confidence you get when you've got a competition under your belt. In 3rd place here was Julia oh gosh, butchered the name again. Like, I practice these names, I promise I do. And Simon Desmarais, from Canada, and they are newer to pairs. Short program, really messy. Bad throw, rough twist, just barely completed all 3 revolutions in the twist, under rotated the double axel. She did just they had negative GOE on 5 of their 7 elements. Only the lift, which got a level 3, and their step sequence were clean. They got a base value on their death spiral. They were off the music at the end, just not their strongest performance, but yet they were, still 4th and within striking distance after the short program. The free skate was much better. It was really the cleanest free skate, and they won the free skate, although the Chinese pair, and the Japanese pair were all within like a half a point with each other, so virtually a tie. But they were skating the sign of the times. Really thought nice press lift, one of the better lifts that I saw in the entire competition. Think that they lack don't think they do lack difficulty overall. Just double throws, just double side by side jumps, but the content that they had, they did well, and that served them well here. In 4th place was Sai Shimizu and Lucas Tsuyoshi Honda from Japan. They were 7th in the short program, but 3rd in the free skate, so ended up 4th overall. In the short program, they were skating to Swan Lake. They lost a lot of base value because they just did a double twist and a throw double Salchow. So apparently the Salchow was intended to be a triple, but she just really had no height at all, and there was just no room to put another revolution in there. Their lift was just really slow. In the side-by-side spins, it seemed like he was doing something completely different kind of at the end of that than what she was. I really like their step sequence with the knee slide. They got illusions in there. They got twizzles in there. They just show a lot of versatility. This team looks like 2 really good single skaters. Their singles elements are good, but their pairs elements really leave a lot to be desired. So unfortunately for them, they got no credit on that back outside death spiral. I think Ted said something about maybe she wasn't on the right edge. She did get 3 revolutions around, so it wasn't that caused them to lose that. I thought their presentation and their skating skills were very strong, and they were 2nd in PCS. Scores all over the place, everywhere from 1st to 14th. Judges didn't really know what to do with them, and I get it. In the free skate, they're skating to Claire de Lune. They don't get a lot of height or distance on that throw triple Salchow. In fact, Ted Barton said after the fact, during the replays, that it's really more of an assist than it is a throw. And I would kind of agree with that. And she can do I would imagine, a really great throw triple Sal on her own. And so the hope for them going forward is they look to me like they're probably newer to pairs, is that they can really work on some of those pair elements that are really weaker for them. If they combine that with their stronger singers elements, they could be a real force, because Japan has Rikyu in Ryushi, and they have for the last several years medaled at Worlds and have qualified 3 teams for Worlds, but there just haven't been any other Japanese pair teams to go. And so this is a team that, maybe could get there if they could work on some of these other elements in their program. They actually did a side-by-side triple lutz, double axel, double axel. It didn't go perfectly well. Their triple lutzes were great. He fell out of the second double axel and then didn't attempt that third jump or that second double axel. And then they did side-by-side triple toes, which were very well done. So again, their single elements are really good, but then they just do a throw, double lutz later in the program. Pair spins, very slow. Lifts are very slow, but their program overall is just very, very lovely. So this is a team I would love to see get some work with the Chinese to work on their throws. I would love to see them get some work with somebody to help their twist, because I see so much potential there, but I also see a lot that they need to work on as well. In 5th place was Polina Pullman and Gabrielle Rinaldi of Italy. Their heights are not on their ISU profile, but they look very, very close in height. I mean, they look like they're within no more than 3 inches difference between the two of them. And that can really affect you in pairs because you want to have a little bit more of a height difference. Like ideally, a lot of times at least 6 inches, a lot of times no more than 9 inches. But it can be very difficult to do lifts and things like that when you're so close together in height. So that's something that it was really, really obvious to me in the short program. And at times it almost feels like he's bending his knees. Uh, so at times they look like they're the same height. When they're not skating at all and they're just side by side at the end of the program, you can see that he's a little bit taller. But when they're skating, they look like they're the same height. It's really strange. In the short program, they do their footwork sequence to like I Feel Good by James Brown as it kind of comes on, which is really fun. The only thing is there's like a little delay before that piece of music comes on. It almost reminds me kind of like of, oh my gosh, I just totally forgot. Alexei Yugin, that's the name I'm thinking of. Back when he used to do his footwork sequences at the end of his program, there would be like this, like he would get to the side and then like stick one arm up and stick the arm up and like pose before he would go into his footwork sequence, right? So he could just be right on the music. And so for them, it was just kind of this kind of awkward pause where they were kind of posing and waiting for that particular music to come on. But overall, just a lot of things that need to be worked. Their spins were way off at the end. It was just kind of distracting. They had some of the best levels of the competition. Level 4 on their lift, step sequence, their spin. They actually got a level 2 on their death spiral, which is good, what we've seen the last 2 weeks. They were 3rd after the short program. But their free skate was unfortunate for them. They were 6th in the free skate. And so they fell out a little bit and off the podium. They're skating to Pirates of the Caribbean. Most of their elements were okay, but just nothing was spectacular. They really had 2 errors, hand down on the double axel. And then on the combo spin, they fell and just put hand down and they tried to salvage it. But those 2 errors definitely cost them as well. And so unfortunately for them, they were not able to stay on the podium. And they were all out of the podium by about 5 points. So it would have been close had they been able to get that spin and landed cleanly the double axel. I think they would have been able to hold on to the podium. And then in 6th place here was Deborah Ann Cohen and Lucas Wolchaska of the Czech Republic. So home team here. Their short program was pretty messy in the beginning. Almost everything else was a struggle as well. So low catch on their twist, a badly 2-footed throw, triple sal, double axel was almost clean. The lift was fine, but had a bit of a slow exit, and they only got a level 1 on their step sequence. So 4 of their 7 elements had negative GOE and had pretty low GOE on the 3 elements that didn't get negative GOE. Or free skate, using Build a Home. Again, music we've heard an awful lot. I will give them kudos for the fact that they had a double axel, single axel combo that was actually pretty in sync. I thought they had really nice in between choreography. You saw a lot of extension from her. Their lifts look pretty good. Just a little slow on the exits, kind of like it was in the short program. Again, they got lots of negative GOE, but I don't think it was as bad as a performance as what it looked like it was on their scorecard. So their throws are just the really weak spot for them in general, and something that they're going to have to work on. But they were just barely out of the medals here, because I mean, they were about 8 points out, which seems like a lot, but a lot of these teams were really pretty close together, and there was, quite a bit of movement with a lot of these teams here in the free skate, especially because, like I said, it was just kind of, unfortunately, a little bit of a messy event, but it's pairs nonetheless, and I'm always happy to see pairs. All right, so I guess I got to give a Pam Chico to somebody for this event. So I'm going to give it to the French dance team as well as Stefania Gladkey. So both of them here, with the French dance team being the first French team in 8 years to win, and then for Stefania, the first single skater in 19 years to get a medal. So very, very impressive for Team France here at this Czech Grand Prix. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. So there'll be yet another stop in the Junior Grand Prix this weekend, as well as Lombardia Trophy for the seniors with a lot of big names. So I'll definitely be covering Lombardia, and you'll probably see that coverage come out before the Junior Grand Prix coverage will, but I will also be covering it as well. And I will cover men this week because I haven't covered them yet. And as always, you can find me on all the socials at Ice Skate Podcasts. You can also send me a line at thecuttingedgepod@gmail.com. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week and enjoy some skating this weekend. There's a lot going on.